is he ever going to ask me? Um, I've done all the waxing of cars and painting the fences, and we had a pretty good, successful first year. So by the time he asked me to lunch and pop the question, so to speak, I was ready. I had given it some thought. I was sitting there thinking, oh crap, because the whole time I've been planning this for a decade. So now I've got this young up and coming Andy that they all like. And what if he swoops in and now he owns Apex, and I didn't get an opportunity at it because I knew that this was what I was going to do eventually. So I would sit in my hotel room at night and business plan about owning a business brokerage.
It was time to get some new blood in here and running the show. So, and I knew Jason was the guy that was going to be part of that.
I didn't know that, I tell everybody that Doug left the shop not in good hands, but in good shape. So in the next 1,000 days, I want to groom the next owner. I'm excited for the next season of Apex. Stay tuned for what we do with it.
So Doug and Jason, I think what I've thought about this episode, hearing both sides of your story separately, is this is the first time both of you will be talking about the story together. And I think maybe you can both share different aspects of it and then say, well, actually I was thinking such and such, or I never told you such and such. And I think those will be some of the fun things. And we may not get too many of those, but I think there's at least a couple of those around. So I think maybe we can start with Doug. Did you ever think of Jason as a successor in the business, and when and how?
This is going to be like a counseling session. You're going to be like, okay, because we've talked about it to some degree with our peer advisory group. And Jason and I have been friends for a long time. Besides the professional connection, we've become, really good friends over the years. So I think looking at this is kind of funny because, yes, I knew Jason would be successful in this business. I tried to get him to join Apex, 2012?
2011. 2011, beginning of 2012 maybe. Yeah.
So, Ham and I took Jason and his wife Paige out to dinner, trying to, recruit. And I knew that it was also a time where, he's in banking and it's a totally different world, really. But I thought Jason would be really good in this business. So I'd known all along, but it was just taking that time and for him to go through different iterations in banking to finally get around and do the smart thing.
So why did you think you were unsuccessful in getting him at the time?
Well, I think it's just the way our industry is. It's, we're working on commission only. I think there were a couple of things. I think Jason didn't want to work for me. He would rather be, I think, a partner. If I was going to have him come in, he would want to come in as a partner, is the way I understood it. And rather than just coming in as a broker. And my take on it was you've got to experience being a broker to really get how this industry works and to gain that knowledge. And Jason had extensive knowledge in financing our deals and all sorts of SBA lending around acquisition. So he's very familiar with that part of it, but being a business broker is different. And I thought it was important for him to be part of the organization from that aspect, to learn the business as a business broker or advisor.
So your take is he didn't come on in 11, 12 because he wanted to come in as a partner.
I think it was a little early. I think it was early for him to be thinking of that. If I remember right, I think it was probably, several years later when we talked about it a few times where I would nudge him, say, you need to do this. You're going to regret not doing it. But it had to be his choice, and I wasn't going to be pushing, and I wasn't going to be offering something that was going to be uncomfortable for him. You know, it had to be the right time for him.
What do you remember about that dinner and the aftermath?
No, that was a very accurate recollection. I remember, well, it's because I remember Paige and Pam just hitting it off, and that's really important. You know, we get it. Our spouses are pretty smart. Yeah, ladies. And so to bring them into a situation, and both of them, I think, leaving saying, I'd like to be a part of this partnership somehow. So, but Doug and I have been friends outside of that, so it wasn't a first time. It was the first time for them, I think, at that point. But yeah, life was different back then. You know, economically, you go back 14 years and take, 14 years ago, my kids were, 10 and 13, and there's just needs in life at those stages. So obviously it was economic for me. I wasn't at a position where I could take that kind of risk with my family, and the banking route was just safer for me. And so at that time in 2012, I had an opportunity to come here, which I really appreciated, but also had an opportunity to go to Altera Bank and help start an SBA division, and chose that, obviously. And I don't regret that for a minute, because what that allowed me to do, prior to that, I didn't have SBA experience. I didn't have M&A experience. So I was able to run a parallel career path for 10 years, 12 years, becoming an SBA expert, making a name for myself, making a name for the banks that I ran, and walking alongside the deals here. Apex continued to be my best client, even better at that point, because now I was providing financing for the deals that were being done here. So our relationship professionally grew over that decade. My experience in SBA grew, and that's a huge value add to what we're doing now. So I think it was a perfect decision at the perfect time to take that route versus this. So then our paths come together again. So 14 years later, again, things are changed. Your kids are out of college. You check a few boxes. Banking became more and more less enjoyable.
We heard about a podcast episode that never aired,
Right.
as a result of restrictions.
They had you change my name because the bank I was working for would not allow me to speak publicly.
You're Mason Moxness.
My Mason Joxness. Yes. Yeah. So the restrictions of the banking industry just got to be too onerous for me, and most people say they were surprised I'm too entrepreneurial for banking, and they're right.
Yeah, very entrepreneurial.
And then the partnership piece, that definitely wasn't on my radar in 2012. I knew that, hey, I didn't have either SBA experience or M&A experience to expect to come in as a partner. I just didn't have the financial storehouse, if you will, to come take a risk. However, fast forward 14 years and, coming from a market president bank job and leading SBA divisions, that's where I felt that, hey, coming in at a partner level would be something more attainable rather than starting as a broker. So if there was a rub. If there was a rub, if there's a rub, I told you it was my own pride. Gets in the way of, hey, I think I've proven myself professionally in a parallel path. I didn't want to, in my mind, start over. But Doug held firm. And I'm fine with that, or good with that. And
I mean, it worked out.
It worked out.
I think where Jason, and the banking really benefited Jason on a couple of levels. It wasn't just the financing and getting to know M&A deals. It was the network you built over those years, all the business owner clients that you coped out over those years. So Jason's become very well known in the area, in the industry. And I think that's been a huge benefit coming in now, taking over Apex.
Yeah. How do you look at we've gotten in the Business Journal a couple times in our first 90 days, and that's just because of relationships that formed with those folks there. And all of it has just helped, speed up the learning curve here. So it's felt very comfortable, stepping into this role. If I had any regrets, I was probably a couple years late in coming. I wish I had come over probably COVID time. That would have been better, but no regrets.
That's cool. I'm smiling as you say that, because a part of it is someone who's watching or listening to this who maybe has a 10 or a 13-year-old would say, oh, well, is Jason saying I can't take a risk with that age children? Do you think it was a question of the economics of that time period? Because COVID was risky for people too in terms of taking new leaps. So
Right.
if I could just push a little further on, peel back the onion on what's the profile of somebody who wants to take a risk being a broker, an advisor.
Right. And it's funny that I haven't said that, because no one's ever accused me of not being a risk taker.
Right.
If anything, I may be overly aggressive in many things that I do. One of those areas that I'm not is when it deals with family. You've got a wife and you've got kids to support, and so that they come first in my decision making. So it was, and it truly is financial. If there's a barrier to entry in this business, it is just that. And maybe it's something we can figure out. But you're self-employed, you're independent contractor. There's not salary and benefits and all of those things you get in corporate America.
How would you modify that barrier in terms of either money or time? Is it 2 years? Is it a year? Is it you got to have 50 grand socked aside to get started?
The advice that I got back in 2012, and that's why I didn't do this, was from another firm that I was talking to, that they said, you've got to have a year's worth of oxygen saved up before you get into this. And that's probably good advice.
That's what I would tell everybody who interviewed here. Yes, you better have a year.
Health insurance set aside, everything.
Whatever it is. Now, get your budget put together. Andy went through that in detail before he started here, but he knew what he needed for that first year, and he made that work. But he knew exactly, down to the dollar, what he would need. And so that's what people have to think about. A year. If you can make it a year in this business, then you're probably good. It's just that first year that will kick people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I did the same thing. So I took that advice to heart. And before joining here, I'd been just socking away money. You're starting a business, and just like anything else, you can start a business with cash, which is always advisable. Or you can go into debt and borrow money. I'm debt adverse, so I'm not going to live off a line of credit, so to speak, just to get this thing going.
You realize that humor set is coming from a banker.
I know. Yeah.
he knows how the banks work.
I know how it works, and if it taught me anything, is don't borrow. So, sorry, bankers. We need you.
That was not the line that was titled today.
Personally, I'm debt adverse, so I saved up, and I think that was important too. That if you're going to do something that's important, save up.
Well, I think, it is interesting, because I know that over the decades that I've been in this business as the old man, it was always harder to get finance people to buy a business, because they looked at the risk versus the opportunity. I'd always have a better chance selling the business to a marketing, a salesperson, an operations person, but you get a finance person,
where does he smart for our own good?
They're risk averse. And so, I remember having 5 finance guys from Sprint come into the office once, and I asked them, this is when we had this buyer program.
Who's the smartest guy in the room? They'll raise their hand.
They were, $200 to be on the buyer program, and they're like, $200 for each. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let the 5 of you figure out how to split $200. And they asked me to leave the room so they could talk about it.
Oh my gosh.
And then they came back and they said, yeah, we're not going to do that. So that's why finance people tend to be a little bit more risk averse. And so it takes a little bit of time, but Jason on the other side is also very entrepreneurial. And so he knows how to grow a business. He's done it before, whether it's in banking or other businesses that you've run. He's always been able to grow business. So not a worry on my part that there's going to be some fault here, failure or something. So,
well, it doesn't, for me, it's funny as a look back, because I only think of sort of aggression and growth in terms of Jason, and this idea of, things having to change and develop over time. And also too, as you said, maybe coming as a partner, no, you got to sweep the floors first, et cetera, and bringing that together. Just sometimes it is a time, and you did pick up really valuable skills, a skill set that very few in the office have, if any, or of working in the bank, approving SBA loans. I mean, who's gonna be able to say that? And that I think brings a lot of confidence to potential buyers and sellers as well. Like, well, did you know what I did for F&B? Raj, you got questions about SBA? I might be able to help you with that. So
It's one of the most important components of what we do is finding financing. So selling business is one thing, but the buy side is oftentimes forgotten. So helping buyers through the buy side only helps the sellers sell their business in an expedited process. So it's perfect marriage.
as we get towards a deal, did you think Jason would do it by himself, and did Jason think that he would do it by himself?
I think when I was thinking about it, I was approaching Jason as potentially partnering with Andy. I wanted to talk to Jason about that. I met with Jason first to say, what do you think about this? And what I remember is he jumped on it right away and thought it was a good idea to partner, and that Andy was, the right guy to do that with. And then I talked to Andy. So, but and they both, I think they both not just agreed, but looked forward to it, and were excited. They were excited about it. Right? You're excited about it.
I'm still excited about it. Yeah, I was so excited. I'm like, there was getting to a point last year. I'm like, is he ever going to ask me? I've done all the waxing of cars and painting the fences, and we had a pretty good, successful first year. So by the time he asked me to lunch and pop the question, so to speak, yeah, I was ready. I had given it some thought. That's a big reason why I came here. So I hate to say there was an expectation, but I had a personal expectation, or this is my desire to. But it's Doug's business. I'm not going to force him out by any means. I'm not going to initiate the conversation. When he's ready, he's ready. As impatient as I might have been, so I was thankful when we did have the conversation at the end of the year. And and I've had partnerships before, and some bad experience with partnerships, and it seems like partnerships always end, and when they end, they don't end well. So I was reluctant to have a partner, but the more I thought about it to do, and I came to my own realization. It wasn't Doug suggesting it earlier. That if I remember the conversation right, it was, well, what about Andy? I'd like another partner in this. And you're like, I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I was thinking too. So we got to the same conclusion, I think, in a different way, but Andy was the only name that came up in my head of, yeah, I think that I'd like to have a partner in this, just because it's more fun, for one. You got someone else in the office to bounce ideas off of, and figure out, working through the difficulties. And so it's been fantastic. And, Andy and I, we call it an arranged marriage. Andy, after Andy had his lunch with Doug, he sheepishly poked his head in my office and said, I guess we should have lunch. So I guess we should talk about what this means. So it's gone extremely well, and we have a lot of complementary skill sets. And
we could probably talk a little bit about our time at the lake when all the guys thought that Doug's never going to make it happen.
I guess we haven't talked much about our group, but Doug and I have been a part of your 20 years.
Yeah, probably close to it.
6, 7 of us, and we do life together. We travel together, lake trips together, and so it's been a fantastic support, personally and professionally, to be a part. I would encourage anybody to be a part of a group if you're lucky enough to get 6 guys together that you're like-minded with. But 4 of us went to the lake last summer, and sitting on my dock, and everyone's just talking about, Jason was the one that the other Jason, our group, Jason Terry, wanted to talk about retirement. What's the next season of everyone's life look like? And I was excited to have that conversation. Doug's going to be there. Now is when he's going to actually roll out his vision.
Yeah.
And so we were all, going around the circle about, what we see in the next season of life. And Doug didn't play a single card. They were all close to the chest. Or you did talk about, your art and things that you want to do,
and then Jason's driving home, and I think someone calls him to say, I don't think this is gonna happen for you.
Right.
both of the other guys. I was with Jason on the way home, and John Ogren had a conversation with later, and both of them like, yeah, I don't know what Doug's plans are, but they
don't involve you.
And doesn't involve you.
So at that time, had you already been thinking about handing it to Jason? Or
It was on the radar, but I also wanted to not playing hardball, but I just wanted to make sure he was in it and was doing his own thing before I just like
you didn't want to make him feel like you're rolling out the red carpet.
Right. There was work involved. He was in the middle of some deals. You'd closed some deals. Things were going well, but at the same time, I was still in that contemplating how this was going to work, and I wasn't just going to say, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're my guy."
I've been thinking about it. It's Jason.
I was being cautious.
Well, he used to drop hints like, man, I only knew a ex-banker that had some SBA experience that might someday want to do this, but he wasn't dropping anything but bombs on me in that day.
That's because it took you like 14 years to join us. So
well,
I was making you pay.
He made me big.
Doug, I don't know if you know this. So I think it was at an IBBA, or at least there was a major rain delay, and they were able to talk. He and Andy, Jason and Andy were able to talk, but he was the sort of drink sponsor that night at one of these conferences, and a couple colleagues came up to Andy and said, "Hey, we think you should buy this business from Doug." And Jason's there. They don't know Jason's thought history pattern. Jason's there because he's paying for the drink, so he's get to hear all of this plan. Did you know about this?
I think I heard a little bit about it. I probably didn't hear that.
Yeah, you weren't there, but yeah, it was enlightening. It was a good conversation. It wasn't Doug leaving. It was.
When can you get out of the old head?
It wasn't like any business, and when you've owned as long as you have, and no one owns them forever. Everyone's, they start to get uneasy about what does our future look like. How much longer. I'm just retired, I think, and it's just a natural conversation that happens. And Andy was a very likable guy in the office, and a couple of the folks after a couple cocktails. Andy would think you should buy this. Andy was surprised by that in a good way. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, crap. Because the whole time I've been planning this for a decade. So now I've got this young up and coming Andy that they all like. And what if he swoops in and now he owns Apex and I didn't get an opportunity at it? And I would go to these IBBA conferences as a banker, but I would actually go take the classes because I knew that this was what I was going to do eventually. So I would sit in my hotel room at night and business plan about owning a business brokerage.
So going back to that lake visit and you getting the phone calls like, hey, I don't think it's going to be you. Do you think, I've just got to start my own? That's what's going to have to happen now?
You're going to ask me that?
Because those people all know Doug. You do. He didn't seem to mention it, so you think, okay, well, and you didn't hear the context that he gave now, which was he didn't really want to tell you.
So yeah, again, I'm entrepreneurial and I've got goals and aspirations. So if two of my closest people that were in that meeting said it's not you, then okay, I guess it's not me. I need to start planning for, okay, if it's not me, then what am I going to do? And I didn't want it. I shouldn't say just be a broker, but I had aspirations to own. So, okay, if it's going to be somebody else, what am I going to do? And started trying on what would that look like. And at the end of the day, it just didn't look good from a standpoint of what's been built here can't be replicated very easily. So just to stem out and I go start my own. I started my own mortgage company and grew that, and I could do that, but I don't want to do that.
Well, I think that the next lake visit would be hard when someone says, "So what do you got going on?" Well, I've thought about starting a business brokerage. In the Kansas City metro area.
It could be awkward.
It would be very awkward.
But I think it was knowing. I knew Jason's goal was to be an owner. I know his personality, and he wants to be the guy running an organization and growing an organization. And so for me, it was just getting the timing right and the people in place, and me personally to where, okay, now's the right time. And I recognize in myself that the time it was getting there. And I think it was getting there quicker than what I even anticipated. In my own kind of like, okay, self-reflection, it's time to move on. It's time to get some other people in here and take this over. I didn't want, as I talked earlier with Steven, I didn't want the business to stall. I didn't want it there to be a pause, a downward trend, that things were going well, and it was time to get some new blood in here and running the show. So, and I knew Jason was the guy that was going to be part of that.
And I never would have gone on my own, which is you got to try some things on and see how it feels. And I think I probably would have had a conversation by the end of the year had we not had it. Just, hey, can you give me some
Timing was right.
Give me some career advice. So I just need to have a goal out there.
Yeah,
And
I
it
figure
would've
if
been a
somebody wants
conversation
to
like
have a business brokerage,
Say-
like what would
What
say
would
a
that look
former banker?
so
No, and I guess, it was fortunate that we had that conversation. What we did, it was in December, right? And so timing was right. He had this on his mind, obviously. And rather than him bringing it to me, I brought it to him. So what's better?
always works better. So I'm trying to be patient.
So the theme of some of these discussions has been, okay, it's been the first 30 days, 60 days. Now it's been about 100 days heading towards the end of the deal and the transition. Jason, what are you thinking? Hey, you never told me about this, or hey, I didn't know it was going to be like this. What are some of the things? Because I know on Doug's part, it's just been, well, how do I manage being in the same house with my wife all the time now and have her routine and have me? So I think his challenges are a little different from yours.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, that's a great question. I might take a different angle at it because coming from the bank side, what frustrated me when people buy businesses is there's always a surprise. The buyer is always surprised, whether it's right out of the gate or 6 months or a year down the road. And oftentimes those surprises are negative. I didn't know this. I didn't do the proper due diligence. And sometimes those surprises are detrimental. Sometimes they cause business failure. They can be, again, devastating. Honestly, I did not experience, I have not, knock on some wood here, have not experienced that. If anything, it would be, I didn't know it was going to be this good. I didn't know that, I tell everybody, Doug left the shop not in good hands, but in good shape. Didn't drain the coffers, didn't take, we have a vibrant pipeline and deals closing. And he was very generous in leaving those, knowing that we needed working capital and we needed these things to get going. So, shouldn't say surprised, but I've been very grateful in the way that we were receiving the company in the shape that it was in and the shape that it is in. That, yeah, it's better than I thought it was going to be, honestly, in better shape than I thought it was going to be. And, and it's kind of like buying a house. It is, we can't help but remodel a few things. If you, look around this room, these are kind of touches that I enjoy doing. So we're remodeling a few things, not just physically, but around the office and technology, and that part is the fun part. The core of it is solid, and that's fantastic.
Well, I think technology is the low-hanging fruit that Doug had alluded to as part of what pushed him towards selling, seeing the horizon ahead and thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't know about this stuff. I think someone else could take it much further, much faster than I could. So I think technology is low-hanging fruit. What else, when you're thinking of what you are looking at for opportunity and growth, that you would like to do that I think, again, Doug was not interested in doing, that you feel excited about doing?
Yeah. If you look at my Strength Finder results, I'm a maximizer. And so I like taking things that are already in a good position and maximizing them, making them bigger. And so did that with Altera, walking into something that's already great and making it even better. I think doing that here. So I like growing teams. I like people. I like recruiting. So when you like what you do, you like to tell other people about it. And when people feel that kind of energy of, hey, that must be a really good place, they want to join.
Yeah.
So, in our first 90 days, I've recruited 3 new brokers. And again, that's how we do this.
Are they all here in the Kansas City area?
2 in Kansas City and 1 in Springfield, Missouri. So now opening up a new territory.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, it's all, great. And that was one of the things that I was looking forward to as we were heading toward the transaction, is knowing that Jason had these people back in the behind the scenes waiting for him to take over, and where these are people who I wouldn't have been able to recruit. And Jason's strength, bringing people in and growing the business.
For people who don't know what the velocity of hiring at a business brokerage would be, how many would you typically hire in a year?
Well, very few. And part of it was I wasn't necessarily out recruiting. It would be people coming to us, and it could be a business owner, seller, or a buyer who decides to join us. Maybe 1 a year, maybe. There are many years where we didn't hire anybody new.
What the Doug's hired too, though, is that there hasn't been a lot of turnover here. You've got some
very little
original folks here, so it's not like we're continually replacing what's leaving. So there hasn't been a recruiting class coming in, rising that right to. But
we had at one point 18 brokers, and when I took over, I think we had in that 5 to 6 range. And so, but people who came on, typically most of the people would stay until they retired. We've had people retire out. We've had people leave for other reasons. I've had people buy businesses and leave. And that can happen periodically. But I am proud of the fact that we built a team that enjoyed doing what we do and got a lot out of it, and personally, financially rewarding, and wanted to continue doing it. So didn't find a reason to go anywhere else.
Do you have a number of advisors you'd like to have in the team in your mind?
As many good ones as I can get. Yeah, it's, there's not a number, but there's a quality out there. And so I recognize too that not everybody stays forever, and so there will be some just natural retirements that will happen on the team for no other reason than they're just ready, just like Doug, just ready to retire. So Andy and I thought of that and went through that. We went up through the whole roster and almost put a date of, okay, we might have 8 more years with this person or 5 more years with this person. And that's part of our due diligence process. So just had to think logically and realistically. That's just for no other reason than that. So I would love to find a way to bring on younger advisors. When you brought on Jeff and Debbie, they were in their 30s.
Right.
That's really unusual.
Yeah.
And I'd like to find a way to replicate that, do that again, so that we can grow the next generation of business broker. And I think that's just a matter of either getting them off to a quicker start. It's all financial related. People in their 30s have got families. They've got, just like I was. I sit there too, so I know what it feels like. But I'd like to figure out a mechanism to get those folks off the ground quicker, and I'm doing that right now with our 3 new hires. They walked in on day 1 with deals. I either helped them start them before they came, or physically handed them, hey, I've got a sell side. Here's a buy side that might be a good match. And so I've got new people already on the board in their first week, and that's rare.
And that's transformative. When you get that first check, it's real. It's not I'm trying to be a business broker.
Right.
It's actually happening.
And not that I made promises to these folks, but they're friends and former colleagues, and I just said, trust me, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to, just like that Doug did with me. I walked in on day 1, and here's a lead, here's a lead. And I want to do the same thing. I just want to get them up the learning curve quicker. I know that they understand the process. Let's get you paid.
There's a personal stake for us as owners in the business, is we want people to succeed. And that means doing deals. And I don't like people just sitting in their office with nothing to do. A lot of that's on them. But if I can help somebody get ahead and close some deals and make money where they want to continue doing this, that's the goal. That's always been the goal, is like, not me personally or you guys, but these folks need to make money. They need to take care of their families. And so there is that personal, I mean, it's a big team, it's a close net group. So
You've been talking about the financial aspect of becoming an advisor, and I think that's obvious and clear, and you've even given some ideas behind that. With both of you here, I'm thinking 1, 2, 3 qualities of the best advisors. So someone's watching or listening to this and thinking, maybe I could do that. What are the qualities you're looking for?
I go right out of the gate with the network. Being a known entity, a known quantity, someone who is well networked and well respected and well thought of in the community. This is still a relationship business. Some of what we do can be replaced or enhanced by AI, but at the end of the day, you're building trust with a business owner. And so I like people that have a network, for one, that are used to calling on small businesses and working in the community.
you can't be shy. You can't be holed up in your office waiting for something to come in. And you knowing that you're going to be working on deals, talking to attorneys, bankers, buyers and sellers, you have to have some backbone and be able to get in and put your foot down at times and say, we need to manage this process better. And so people who have been business owners and who maybe have sold a business are great. But we've got quite a few folks. I think most of the people had owned a business, and I don't know if that's true right now. Half the people have probably owned a business, and I think that's always helpful.
Well, and they would have those two qualities. They'd have to have built a network in order to build that business, and they'd have to be able to speak up for themselves as part of it or get in the door. Right. So those, I think, are two great. Any other or X factor ideas? 2
of the 3 new hires that I brought on recently are ex-bankers. So I have an affinity for bankers. I was one, and I like them because they, not just them, of course, but all bankers, because bankers are typically well networked. They're at events. They're out in the public. They're not shy. They're salespeople, but they also have the financial aspect down. So they know what a deal looks like. They know how to cash flow and spread financials. They know how to work their way through a tax return. So I love that experience, and combined with the ability to network and to sell. Yeah.
So successful bankers.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that was the thing is, we look at people who, no matter what industry they're in, have they been successful in that industry? We've got Valerie, has a PhD in chemistry. She was, in sales for different large, corporations. She didn't own a business before. I don't think she spent a lot of time looking at financial statements, but she is really good. Debbie never had any business ownership experience. She didn't know where balance sheet was when she started. And she's been one of our top advisors for years. So,
yeah, there's no one size fits all or one ideal perfect broker. It's just you'll know him when you see him.
Last question I have is, we've talked about the last 100 days. So what do the next 1,000 days look like for the two of you?
Doing the math. It's 3 years of
just about 3 years.
Yeah, about at 3 years. 3 years from now, I plan on being in this seat. Size of the team, 30% larger. Again, continue to grow. I think technology is going to continue to improve, and that's the biggest unknown and the biggest excitement of what technology will do to our space. And again, I hate to say it, but Andy and I need to look for our successors. We're never too early in starting that. So in the next 1,000 days, I want to groom the next owner. And I plan on being here for a while, but I'd like somebody, if you're listening, in their 30s, maybe 40s, who might be interested in this, who want to do this for a number of years, and so that we can experience what Doug is too, that we can now hand off Apex 2.0 or 3.0, I guess, if you're the second owner, so or the third.
Yeah, I think I started when I was 42, and I think, like you said, we had Jeff and Debbie start in their 30s, and I feel like if you've got the gumption, you've got some backbone and some sales aptitude, you can make this work, and you can kind of teach you the rest. But for me, and 3 years down the road, I hope to still be alive and taking my supplements. So I don't have any hair dye, so this is the color I guess I'm stuck with.
Doug's in better shape than all of us, so he'll be just fine for years.
Well, and that's part of my routine now is the fitness part of it always kind of took a back seat. It's like it would be on my calendar, but something would always come up in the office, some deal that I'd need to inject some opinion on it or something. I don't know. So now I can actually have a schedule with going to the gym or mountain biking or something.
Doug, 3 years now, he's gonna come out looking jacked like he just got out of prison. He must have some tribal tattoos.
I might be looking at some tats
because he works out every day, and so you might have a new career in 3 years. Senior Flex magazine or something.
I have some hobbies, and painting is kind of the one thing that I really want to spend some time on, some art and educating myself on that, and so that's a whole new world that I've not accessed, and finding mentors in that industry, and networking with a whole new group of people. So that's going to be fun, and makes me a little nervous, but that's kind of what I want to be pursuing.
Any last things that we want to talk about that we haven't mentioned? I want to give you all the last word.
No, I'm just grateful and excited for the opportunity. I'm excited for the next season of Apex. Stay tuned for what we do with it.
I'm grateful too. I mean, if it hadn't been for Jason and Andy, the timing was really perfect for all of us, and it allows me to go and do something different. And so I think it's just so fortunate and grateful that we were able to come together and make this happen. There are always things that go on in transition, and I mentioned to Stephen earlier, I think the trust that we have, the three of us, in each other, the deal's going to work no matter what. And we've worked through some things in those first 90 days, things that they didn't know or I didn't think about, that we make those things, we make those adjustments, and it's been easy. It's been very easy. So I wished every deal could be this way, and it's not, but I felt like we hit the easy button.
Agreed.
Well, thanks for sharing your stories.
Thank you.